the foot is made up kind of hundreds of bones and ligaments. It has over 200,000 sensory kind of inputs through your feet, which is similar to your hands, right? We use our hands as a way of feeling our way around environments and picking up things, which is a really key part of how we visibly function as a human. But our feet play that similar role in our movements. So your feet are designed to act as that first touch point at the ground. It's designed to give you that sensory input that informs how the rest of your body moves.
I'm Todd Vande, CEO of Stark, and I've gone from vegan to paleo, from keto to carnivore, from cryosaunas to ice baths, to training like an athlete, to being injured like one, enhancing my mobility, and optimizing my sex hormones with thousands of labs and various forms of scans. I'm surrounded by high-level medical doctors, naturopathic medical doctors, chiropractors, nutritionists, and strength coaches, all leading me in concert to a state of optimal health. And I'm here to share that journey with you, regardless of your age, your genes, or your medical conditions. Today, I have the privilege of sitting down with Nicholas Charlier, who is a long-standing figure at Vivobarefoot shoes out of the UK. I'm really excited to speak with him because the organization in which he's a part has done such an amazing job in helping me personally course correct my orthopedic issues, starting with my feet. And it enabled me to have better ankle mobility, better knee mobility, better hip mobility, and ultimately make it easier for me to better develop my glutes, which is primarily a longevity pursuit. But I've got to admit, just between you and I, that I think I look better with them. So selfishly, I'm really looking forward to getting inside of his head further and understand what the future is, and maybe uncover some of the details of which I'm unaware that are some of the benefits associated with moving your feet and using your feet in an all-natural way. Okay, so Nicholas, great to meet you. Yeah, last week I spent a week with your people. And I mean, well, 50-50. There was some Americans. There was one German, and then the rest were all from the UK. And we were doing things like I would describe as a pretty either rugged hike or maybe just a all-out rock climb for several miles. And we did a bike ride. It wasn't very far. Maybe it was, I don't know, 10 or 15 miles, but it was like up and down. I had to get off my bike a few times and push it up the mountain. We swam across the Caribbean. I think it was a 5K roughly, and did some additional hiking and stuff. And I was this was shocking to me because there's so many people from the UK. I was the only person with your shoes on. I was the only person wearing barefoot shoes.
Were people walking around barefoot? Given that you were obviously in a beautiful Caribbean island, were people walking around barefoot, or did you see them?
No, they had like running shoes on and stuff. Big old cushy running shoes. Yeah. I figured I'd poke fun at them in public like this instead of just do it one-on-one because I'm just surprised they were so athletically oriented and focused, but I don't think understand the whole concept of using your feet the way they were designed, which is entirely what this podcast is all about. So let's kind of move into that. I would love to get a sense for what the concept of rewilding your feet means. And it's a fascinating topic. And most consumers that I'm connected with in the US, they're not thinking about their feet at all. So
I think your point, you've got an athletic group of people together who you would hope would be sort of aware of barefoot movement, are not aware and perhaps haven't even heard of it. It shows the job to be done, but also for us, it's a massive opportunity. So, we're growing, but we certainly haven't kind of scratched the surface from our point of view. But yeah, your point of rewilding, and we use that word quite a lot within the business, both externally and internally. But for us, it's about restoring kind of natural strength, your natural mobility, basically kind of lighting up the sensory function of your feet, which plays a huge part in how we move and how we function healthily as a human. And it also crosses over into the sort of mission-based part of what we do as a company, which is like, how can we help people practice a more natural way of living more generally? How can we help get people closer to nature? And these things for us start with human health. It starts with feet, but if you can rewild your feet, rewild your movement, then hopefully you'll build that into your broader lifestyle and how you interact with the environment around you. And that's kind of broadly as a business what we're trying to achieve more generally. So
can you talk a little bit more about what happens inside of of your feet the way nature intended. So whether you're barefoot or wearing barefoot shoes versus what's going on in like I've got some, I don't know if you can see the camera right here. They're not your shoes. Those are Allbirds. And I'm just sitting still. So don't judge me. I'm not going to go for a giant walk or anything. I like them. I think they're good looking and they're comfortable, but I wouldn't go walk a lot with them. So can you kind of talk about like how your feet are supposed to operate and what's happening inside of the shoe I just showed you?
Ultimately, the foot is made up kind of hundreds of bones and ligaments. It has over 200,000 sensory kind of inputs through your feet, which is similar to your hands, right? We use our hands as a way of feeling our way around environments and picking up things, which is a really key part of how we visibly function as a human. But our feet play that similar role in our movements. So your feet are designed to act as that first touch point at the ground. It's designed to give you that sensory input that informs how the rest of your body moves. They're also designed in a way to absorb some of the impact forces we get through walking and running. They're designed to hold you upright in a strong postural position so you don't feel pain, and you can, what most of us struggle from, a lot of people that kind of through their 20s, 30s, 40s, gets younger and younger, are struggling from sort of back pain and postural related issues. For us, a lot of that comes from your feet, but your natural foot position has you straight and aligned from the feet up. And so our shoes are designed to allow your feet to do all those things. They allow them to spread out so they can hold your posture and hold you balanced. And they allow them to sort of move as they're naturally meant to, which means the more they move, just like the rest of the body, the stronger they get, the more flexible and mobile they are. And again, just by having thin soles, we allow you to feel that sort of sensory input on the ground. Cushion shoes, however, more traditional shoes, don't do those things. They negate natural movement. Most of them are very stiff, very rigid. So as a result, and often supported, whether that's through inserts or literally kind of just the way the arch design of the shoe is often supporting your arch and supporting your foot. They're often very narrow, so they push your toes together, and they're often on a sort of heel raise. And whether they're a sneaker with a heel raise and a sprung toe, or literally a high heel, or a heeled dress shoe, all those things are changing what your feet are designed to do. They are either restricting movement, making them weak, immobile, and therefore less functional, or they're literally changing the shape of your feet, moving your toes together. The impact of these things, as I said, affects our basic abilities to stand, walk, run, and just move more generally. And those are things that keep us healthy. It's pretty kind of common knowledge that the more you move, the more mobile you are, and the stronger you are, the longer you will live, and the quality of life will improve. But shoes are, from the feet upwards, are impacting that and negating that. And our job really is to educate people on that and help guide them through an experience through their feet that's going to improve their life and improve their health. And it's your story about Necker Island and people not being aware of it. For us, a big start of it is just getting people to take their shoes off. That's why I asked, are they barefoot on the sand? The big quick step people can just take without having to pay any money or making a decision on a shoe style is just taking their shoes off, whether on the beach or on the grass or just at home, honestly, and start to feel what it's like to be barefoot. And our shoes ultimately just mimic that sort of feeling and experience.
Mm-hmm. So you talked about changing the shape of your feet and really how they perform. Can you talk about how our feet are designed? Like how complex are our feet?
Yeah, I mean, our feet are a super good way to look at this. We're still yet, despite all the innovation in robots, and you'll see, and I challenge people to go onto YouTube and look at all the latest innovation around robots, we still can't replicate the foot. So we can do a lot, these kind of technological advancements and all these things we're seeing, and the future of this in this world is crazy, really, in terms of what the kind of mechanical machines are able to do. But we're not able to replicate the foot. The reason being is a foot is a super complex part of the body. As I mentioned, it has multiple bones, ligaments, tendons. The arch in itself, which is something that's in kind of modern day kind of modern day shoe industry is we talk about trying to provide support for the arch. The arch is actually there to kind of absorb the impact. It has three different layers of muscle in the arch to do so. A lot of our sort of movements and come from our toes and our feet, and the dexterity of our toes impact our ability to move and change position and create force through the rest of the body. So yeah, the foot is honestly a masterpiece, and our aim, as I said before, is to allow it to do all those things and move naturally. As soon as you start changing the way your toes can move, the way your arch functions, even how your ankle and your foot pronate one way to the other, as soon as you start to lose those ability, that impact and the job they're playing is negated. That's going to go up the rest of the kinetic chain, and that's often why, particularly in more impact related activities, you see knee, hip, back problems off the back of that. So I think it's a hugely complex piece of kit.
That's really well put. A complex piece of kit. That's interesting the way you describe that. Yeah, just to reinforce this for our listeners, everything up from your feet, really, maybe just except for your arms, are affected by your feet, right? Which is nearly everything.
You talk about kind of creating force. If you're a boxer, and the force that you end up releasing through the impact is in your fist. So it covers every aspect. You're only able to create that force and momentum ultimately through your big toe, which is the most dense part of your foot. If you disconnect that, and that's why actually boxing shoes are very kind of typically very flat. So yeah, I'd say it covers almost all aspects of the body. But I agree. And directly that.
That's a great point on the boxer. We have some boxers in our ecosystem, and the shoes that they wear are questionable, especially when they train. We generally try to get people to go barefoot if they don't show up with a pair of your shoes, which is a great alternative. Not a lot of gyms or fitness facilities enable you to do that, but it's a great solution. So you sort of, my experience in my own orthopedic health journey, which was very problematic, I would say just as an average 57-year-old guy. And I'm in our business, I'm like the crash dummy for the things that we do, generally experiencing them first, and then we integrate them into our system. And for years, our mobility team was trying to get me to, while I walk about 10 to 12 or 8 to 10 miles a day, they were trying to get me to wear barefoot shoes. And I just didn't like the way they felt because they hurt at first, right?
Yep.
And I had this hip issue for roughly 2 years, minor injury at the top of my hamstring from doing a deadlift. And then it just kind of spun off into a whole bunch of other problems, working its way all the way down to my ankle. So my ankle, my knee, my hip flexors, it was just all kind of a mess. And I was doing mobility work with our team for that entire time, twice a week, once a week sometimes. And I finally forgot to take my barefoot shoes off, my Vivos off one day, and I walked home from work. And when I got home, I realized that my hip didn't hurt anymore. And then I decided, well, I'm just going to leave them on for the next morning. And I walked to and from work, depending on our location. And I just left them on the entire time I was walking outside. And in 2 weeks, it was gone. Now I'm working on my neck and shoulders. That issue is sort of solved for. And my point in bringing that up is I was going through the process with our team to course correct the problem, but I was recreating the problem over and over and over again by walking. And so if this is a kind of a cautionary tale, if you become really mobile and you become very active, you go from a sedentary lifestyle, which is common for most people in first world countries, to one that's very active, where you're moving a lot, like I do. You have to get back to moving naturally. Otherwise, your body's going to respond in unfavorable ways, right? You're going to cause problems that you would never have caused before because you were sedentary. So I was just sort of mind blown at the simplicity of that concept, that so much can be solved for by using your body in general, like the way nature intended, but in this specific instance, using your feet the way nature intended. It's fascinating to me. It's so basic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think a lot of the challenges we see when people come to barefoot, and often it's through an injury or pain, and increasingly, which is great, people are choosing it as a health decision like premeditated health decision. They're looking to catch the issue before it happens, which when we first got going and grow this business, there was a lot of people coming with pain, and now we're seeing people be more proactive with their health. And I think that's, not just in barefoot. I think that's generally we're seeing in the rise across kind of lots of countries of that, which is amazing, and we were really passionate about. And I think your one thing you said was kind of just practicing natural movement, and just practicing natural movement doesn't necessarily mean an hour or 30 minutes in a movement studio or a gym or anywhere. Practicing natural movement might be sitting in a natural squatting position for 30 seconds each morning. It might be walking to work in barefoot footwear, or barefoot if you're lucky enough to kind of walk on grass or sand or wherever you live. And I think that's the key for particularly moving into a barefoot shoe, is there is a bit of a process and an experience you have to go through. It can hurt the first few days. You can feel some feedback, but like going to exercise other parts of your body, all you're doing is kind of reawakening those muscles, those ligaments, those tendons. They become stronger and they adapt to the environment ultimately, which is what you want them to do. And over time, they start to feel normal, and you notice some of the benefits of them. But so I guess my point is really that what we're suggesting here isn't a huge lifestyle change, though sometimes it might feel that way. It's really just a kind of setting the right intention and trusting the process you're about to go under with it, and the benefits you might see in days, weeks. It might take a bit longer, but most people do, or most people I've ever spoken to, see those benefits when they take it with that approach.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about kind of the onboarding process for going from wearing ordinary shoes when you're walking or running to doing it either barefoot or with barefoot shoes. What does that look like? Like, what would you say is the range? Well, describe the experience of the first week or so, and then what expectations should be 2, 3, 4 weeks and then beyond.
Sure. So everyone comes in at a different point, and that their point is their feet. Have they worn? It might be down to the kind of shoes they've worn previously, injury, lifestyle as a child has a huge, and I know we're going to probably touch on that a bit later, but it has a huge impact on the stage they kind of they're at in terms of their foot health. So there's lots of factors. So my point is no one person genuinely is the same in this case. Most people, though, generally speaking, you would see the first few days, particularly if you live in a city and you're walking on harder surfaces, you're going to feel it on the bottom of your feet. Your feet are going to feel a bit tired at the end of the day, or they might start to hurt, feel almost a bit of bruising, if you like. The trick really is don't push yourself past pain. Discomfort is okay. Discomfort is you adapting to what's going on. Pain is pain. And take a step back. And we're not asking people to move from wearing no barefoot footwear to barefoot footwear 100% of the time in any way. It's about building it in to when you're on the feet the most over a period of time. So that first week is getting used to that feeling. Your body's really clever. As soon as you start getting those sensory inputs through your nerve endings in the feet, it changes how you move. A lot of us we're rushing to work. I live in London currently, about to move to the US, but live in London, and you see people. Yeah, can't wait. So you see people walking with their head down, striding, huge stride lengths, slamming their heel into the ground just to get to the next train. If you do that in barefoot shoes, effectively walking kind of without consideration of how your body's moving, you're going to feel that impact on your feet. You're going to feel it up the kinetic chain. It's going to hurt a bit. So your body will react to that. So the key things are take it slow in those first few days, react to what your body's saying. And then also be considerate to how you're moving. There is a natural walking technique, like there's a natural running technique, and short strides, good posture, relaxed rhythm is a great way to walk. Might be a bit slower than you were before, but you'll walk for far longer over the next year. So that first week's really crucial in listening to what's going on in your body. After that first week or two, which I think you sound like, you either start to notice an acute change, maybe it's a pain in the back or hip that isn't there anymore. You're like, oh God, this is gone. Or it just starts to feel quite nice. You actually get used to feeling barefoot each morning. It kind of wakes you up a bit, just even walking. So that, 2 to 4 weeks, you were able to increase that sort of range and load, if you like, on your feet. And then after that period, you can start to do more on the shoes. I'd say you can start to exercise in the gym, that you can almost instantly feel the benefits working out in the products. They give you better balance. I mean, the amount of people you see deadlifting barefoot with their big cushion shoes next to them in the squat rack is crazy. That's the cognitive dissonance of what they're doing and then putting back on. So start using them in the gym, start exercising in them. Like hiking and trail off road, you'll be able to build up over those next months if that's what you do. Running is, as you mentioned, running becomes a slightly different challenge, if you like, within that whole experience. So, you build up and you become more comfortable wearing the shoes, and hopefully, if you buy into it enough, you're wearing them in most aspects of your life within a few months, honestly. Running, you've got health as a skill on your background. It counts no more than in running. Running truly is a skill. And a skill, honestly, there's plenty of runners out there who are super fit, successful runners in terms of the times and distances and whatnot. But many people run unskillfully. But we also typically run in very cushioned, supportive shoes that sort of hide some of the potential impact damages that we might be causing on the body. So the feet might not absorb that impact, but the big cushion does. And we see knee and hip injuries that accumulate over a period of time. They're not always happening right away. There's something that we see years down the line, but they're quite often quite serious. Whereas barefoot shoes, you'll notice if you're running unskillfully and you're impacting the ground inefficiently, you'll notice that almost immediately, given the thin nature of the product. So the running for us is starting very slow. It's about looking at your technique. We talk a lot within Vivo about, and in our education programs, we run posture, rhythm, relax. So an upright posture. Rhythm is running at a good cadence with your feet landing underneath your body. We talk a lot about where, heel strike, the toe strike, but actually one of the first things you can do is just concentrate on ensuring your feet are landing underneath your body. You'll be at your most balanced and secure doing that. And, your cadence can increase as you want to increase pace. And then relax is all about being super relaxed. We see a lot of runners running very tense, and they're all tense and trying to run as fast as they can. They're not breathing. But actually, as soon as you start to relax, your body will get into that better rhythm and you'll be able to maintain a better posture throughout the run. So those are really key things that we want to instill first. And they count for anyone, no matter what shoes they're wearing, from our view. And then over time, you start running on grass and then on softer surfaces, and you build up the range over a period of time. So you build the skill first, then you increase the range and distance and pace and things like that. So, I run ultras in Vivos and
Ultra marathons?
Yeah, I've run ultras
Like
in
how far?
Vivos. I did the 50K only a few weeks ago. I did the speed project with a team from Vivo and who we all did it in Vivos.
Okay.
I'm not saying people should do that. My point is you can, and I've built that up over a period of time, but you can do that. Your body is capable of running those distances. My suggestion is people focus on their lifestyle, their training, their everyday health. They'll get the most benefit out of that. And then if they love that feeling enough to use it in their running environment, then just take it slow. And the end goal doesn't have to be 50K or whatever distance you want to do. It could be the odd training run just to get your posture and your posture, rhythm, relax, moving well, because your feeling from your feet is greater in the barefoot shoe than the cushion shoe, and you can therefore sort of build your technique a bit better, I'd say. So there's ways you can. The end goal isn't always the long run. The end goal is improving your health, your foot health, and building, and from our point of view at least, then you're building your longevity in your health as well. And running plays a great part of staying fit, and it is a natural movement. But it doesn't, your Vivo journey there doesn't have to be a crazy one. It could be short, long, medium, or you could just keep it to your lifestyle and gym. It's up to you. But if you do take that path, then those steps I mentioned are super, super important.
Is there a trend within the endurance athlete environment going to barefoot or barefoot shoes?
And I would say if I'm totally honest with you, I think the trend is more cushioned and supported. I don't think in all my time running I've ever seen as big shoe. When I do my own races, I'm usually the longer distance, one of the only ones wearing Vivos.
And you look
But
around
that's
at everybody's feet, I'm assuming, right?
Oh,
You
I
can't help
yes,
it.
yeah.
Yeah.
In every environment, that's yeah,
Yeah.
that's a guy. I'm sort of
Uh,
shaking hands with feet before their kind of faces, honestly. But that's where I'm at. The endurance world is definitely, and the running world has definitely moved to a very sort of maximalist shoe design. And I understand they look cool, and there's reasons for that beyond just running. It's more than that. It's cultural too. But what the flip side of that is, I see it in the wellness space and in the fitness space, the general health space, there is definitely a move towards barefoot products and an understanding of that. So, hopefully there we will see a sort of recalibration of in the shoe industry where we're not seeing people wearing carbon fiber plates in their shoes for a 5K run because honestly that's not going to do much good for you. But
do you believe there's an advantage to an endurance athlete in having barefoot shoes? Not, I'm not talking about orthopedically, because I think that's already been discussed, and I think it's a very sound argument that it does in fact benefit you over time orthopedically. But from a performance standpoint, like, can you eventually, when your body is retrained to be used in its most natural way, can you increase your performance? Do you have a competitive advantage?
yeah, I mean, I can only go on speaking to people who've gone through that process, including myself, because there isn't any studies to suggest one way or the other when we look at endurance around shoes and feet, honestly. But anecdotally, and there's lots of kind of people who can refer to here, I think, yes, it can do. The challenge is you need to really build up your foot strength to such a level that can withstand the load that you're about to put it under. The benefits are up the kinetic change, less knee injuries, less hip injuries. The rest of the body is taking less impact ultimately. Like it's around 30%, your foot can absorb around 30% of your impact when you're running. So when you put a cushion in, it's not like the cushion just absorbs it and it goes away. It goes up the kinetic change. So that's often why you get hip and knee issues. And also how your landing becomes sort of less stable and you're kind of inefficient that way. So I think there's a benefit for the rest of the body and the longevity in that. And that, the rest of your body is feeling strong and fit, and your performance is going to improve. But I do think that there's a caveat that your feet have to be at a certain strength and your technique needs to be really spot on, because again, over a period of time, as you get tired and load increases, the risk is that you have a foot injury as opposed to, say, an injury. So I think it's
The risk of barefoot shoes are a foot injury. Yeah,
exactly,
yeah,
yeah. So you're relying a lot
makes
more on
sense.
your feet than you would be in a cushion shoe. So the answer for me is yes. It has. For me personally, it has. I
Hmm.
think on the road you'd struggle to compete at a very fast pace on the road running via cushion shoe because of the impact forces are greater. On a trail, I think there is huge benefits being able to move, whether you're hiking, running, doesn't really matter what you're
Hmm.
doing, feeling the ground, being able to react to the environment around you at real time, i.e. when your feet are landing and the undulating terrain, etc. I think there's a real benefit there. I think on the
Hmm.
road it's tougher. So yeah, I think performance can improve by wearing barefoot shoes, but I do think you have to do the work around it in those sort of more endurance environments.
Little pro tip to Michelle, my friend Michelle Kari. She's a YouTuber, and she was on Necker with me too. And she's training for, I think she said 7 marathons in 7 days. I don't know when that's happening, but before I had any conversations with her, all she just was blazing by me in every single one of the events, the bike ride, everything. Because she's so well conditioned. But, of course, I looked at her feet and they were running shoes. Michelle, it may not be appropriate for you to change your training at this stage, but just for future reference.
If things are going well, I'm not going to sit here and say
Hmm.
to people, you're not having issues and you're running whatever your exercise is and you're wearing your sort of shoes of your choice and nothing's going
Hmm.
wrong. I'm not going to sit here and suddenly saying change. What I will say for sure is look at your feet. Are they functional? Can you do, I mean, you can look on YouTube. Can you do toga, basic like yoga for your feet exercises? Can you stand up kind of in a haunch position so you can check your ankle strength? Are you loading through your feet? Like, are your toes pushed together? Just, are your feet healthy ultimately? And if they're not, then the things around your sport or your exercise, work on them because they're only going to benefit you even if you're in a cushion shoe. Improve ankle strength, improve foot strength, again, for the longevity of your sport, but also in the actual performance that you're delivering. I think they're massive. And that's where we've seen for me, has been the most interesting growth in more, let's say, more sport related activities, competitive activities, is the athletes are now coming wise to that. And they, basketball players, NFL players, NBA, runners, athletes, whatever it is, it doesn't actually matter the sport. They're understanding that. And it doesn't mean they're wearing Vivos in their everyday sport and actually performing in them, but they are using them for everything else because of the benefits they take onto the court or onto the race with them. And I think that's probably the biggest message I want to get across to people. That's where you start. And the benefits are only going to be positive for that. And then if you decide to use them in your activity because you love it, great. Then obviously then take it a bit slow and be considerate of the process.
Yeah, that's interesting how effective or how beneficial it would be to endurance or, explosive sport athletes like football players. And I'm talking about American football now. Basketball players. It makes total sense to me. I mean, you can literally just become very, very strong by enabling your feet. But it's also, this is for the older people like me. I've got to be, 40 years older than Michelle. Maybe that's an exaggeration. She looks like she's 18 to me, but I think she's a bit older than that. But so she hasn't created orthopedic problems yet because it takes a long time to create them. But I'm on the other end. I've had decades of creating orthopedic problems unbeknownst to me. I'm just, bumping along, doing my best. And because I'm not using my body or was not using my body the way nature designed it to be used, out springs problems. Neck, shoulder, low back, thoracic spine tightness, hip problems, knee problems, and ankle problems. And I'm not suggesting that they all originated with my feet, but they're all minimized by me now using my feet the right way, which is just so mind-blowing to me. So that's the danger of not doing something about it is there, and you don't experience it until you're older. I think, at least that's been my personal experience.
Yeah. I think there's people have experienced it acutely or in later life, or it's a gradual build-up of things that one of the biggest challenges I have when I sit in with peer groups or whatever it is the sort of small complaints of movement related issues. I like to call them. They're not quite a full ailment yet. They're not an injury or an issue that's causing them to take action, but they're an ache, a pain, something they just put up with. And for me, that's super sad because actually they're usually down to their sedentary lifestyles or generally their lifestyles. A lot of them, obviously, as we've talked about, can be related to the shoes they wear or how they look after their feet. And I think that's also sad because, yes, you might get to in your 50s or 60s and having to make a decision and trying to reverse the damage that has been done from decisions earlier in your life. But equally, a lot of people are suffering from, and who are healthy, in theory, kind of healthy, exercising humans, but they're still struggling from these little things. And a lot of them could be fixed quite quickly, as you've just said. Even I think that's a big one for us. Is like, how do you inspire someone that doesn't think they have an issue? It's not all about fixing problems. It's actually just making your life better. And you can do that right away, whether it's barefoot shoes or kind of practicing more natural movements or what you eat. All these things can help. But I think it's something that often takes us to get to that point of pain or issue to do it. And I really love to see a lot of the work we do is trying to inspire people to do it before there is ever a problem. And actually, it's just adding value to their life from then on in.
A tremendous value. I mean, being able to move when you're 70 or 80, in contrast to people today who are 70 or 80, who unbeknownst to them created, let's say, a problem with their hip and had to have a hip replacement. And perhaps if they started 20 years earlier moving naturally, they never would have had to replace that hip. That's kind of a mind-blowing concept.
Life-changing. And they're not necessarily huge changes to their life.
They're very, very small. I mean, if they just swap their shoes and they walk from their car to the restaurant or from their car to their office or wherever, or through the grocery store, and they're getting 4,000 or 5,000 steps a day, which is not that much movement, it can be slowly transformational. And there's no more time that you need from personal experience. It's a little bit of discomfort at first, like the bottoms of your feet are sore because you're using, I assume, all of the muscles that were sort of atrophied up until that point. You're retraining them.
Completely. And you're often, partly the muscles and how you're using them and the fact they're weak and kind of kind of getting used to moving again. But the other side of it is also that your nerve endings in your feet aren't firing in the way they should be, and therefore you're not actually moving that efficiently. So there's these two bits, but those are both things that fix themselves over just walking, literally just walking will fix those.
It's so simple. So we're talking about recovering from the ravages of the modern day lifestyle. Let's talk about what I would say would be kind of a fitness related trend that most people are undermining by wearing the wrong shoes. And the trend is fantastic. Just to give you some historical context, when I was in my 20s in the 90s, there was a body style for women, and it was skinny. The smallest, don't mean to sound crass, ass was like the greatest ass. Like, wow, she has such a nice small ass. And today it's the opposite. A nice round booty is more attractive than a small skinny ass. And so you see young women, and I think that men are training this more as well, which I'm a huge fan of because it's such a critical part of health and health optimization and longevity. They're training their glutes, but they're training their glutes in like running shoes. And so they don't have the connection of the big toe to the ground. And that means they're not able to activate their glute med as well as they should, and can potentially be creating ankle, knee, and hip problems, and even more likely maybe low back injuries. So can we talk about that a little bit, like the opportunity of having your feet moving really well in a strength training environment to develop stronger glutes?
Absolutely. And I think, typically like most shoes have a very, we talked about it earlier, but have a heel. And even when they're in a cushion shoe, the heel is raised, and they counterbalance with the toe spring. So the edge of the shoe goes like this. But I think it's clearly one of the biggest areas that's been affected, like just general posture. As soon as we move our feet from that flat position in the ground, we're not able to engage our glute in the same way, or it becomes almost disconnected with moving the weight of our body from from a sort of more even standpoint in the body. We're moving into our quads, becoming more active. Hip problems for those people, particularly wearing high heels, or I often find people who move to barefoot shoes notice two things almost immediately: is their lower back and their hips feel less tight, and it's because they're no longer in that sort of tucked position as a result of having their heels raised. So it's one of the areas that just going barefoot I feel will kind of correct very quickly, and from a pain point of view and discomfort point of view. Obviously there's other reasons why we see kind of glutes being particularly inactive. We sit all day, but if we're sitting all day and our glutes are inactive, and then when we're actually walking, which is a chance for us to be active again and reactivate them, we're also in this sort of unnatural position where our kind of heels are raised and our toes are pushed down, and we can't effectively not flat to the ground, and we spend the rest of the day like that. They're kind of, we're spending the whole time with them unengaged, and as you said, the problems off the back of that are huge. And I think it's becoming more common that people are aware of their glutes. You go and see a physio. I've certainly been there, and most friends, and they're saying the right thing. There's like, your issue is that your glutes are inactive. I'm going to give you set exercises to help you re-engage your glutes, but they're missing often the point is the way we're moving, or how we're standing, or the sort of sedentary positions we're in are affecting that. And I think that's maybe where the slight disconnect is, that the people understand the glute now, that, and whether it's from a more fashionable point of view that we want to build big bums because it looks beautiful and cool, or because we know it's having an issue around our hip and back area. But then feet are just left out of these conversations most of the time. And yeah, no, that's a big one for us, and we see that a lot. And the physios and practitioners that sign up to Vivo or other barefoot shoes but understand feet will often start by looking at the feet as opposed to looking at the area around their back and their glute and hip areas, and they'll look at the feet as a starting point to see if that's the reason why they're having those issues. And I think that's for me, any movement that's particularly in the lower limb, when you're assessing someone, should start with the feet. And are their feet functional? Are they doing the things they're meant to be doing? Is there an imbalance there? And then you work your way up, as opposed to usually it's kind of, if we're lucky, the other way down, but sometimes not at all.
It's so common to have feet be the original problem, or the basic problem, or the foundational problem. We see that a lot with our mobility experts at Stark, but it's not what the consumer that wants to develop glutes, that's not what they're thinking about. But it is where they should begin. And from all of our experiences here in developing the optimal human body, you can't, it's amazing that when you remove a roadblock, like wearing the wrong shoes when you move or train or run, how quickly your body gets to where you actually wanted it to be with so much less effort. And I've certainly experienced this myself with the minimization of my hip problems and my attachment points for my hamstrings and the knee problems and so on and so forth. Those things kind of fall by the wayside, but the development of the strength and additional muscle mass has been so much faster just by removing the problem. And that's a really interesting topic, because when people try to develop their glutes, they try to do it with greater effort, right? Like more training sessions in the gym, more frequency of training, longer training sessions, more aggressive exercises every single time. And they're entirely missing the boat that maybe they just need to change their shoes.
Yeah, it's also, I think, one thing that I've certainly, anecdotally speaking to lots of people, when you start to feel your feet on the ground and you'll start to become far more aware of what your body is doing. And it's almost that sort of layer of disconnection, that cushion is disconnecting you from ultimately the base. So particularly if you're looking at from a performance standpoint, a training standpoint, if you do not have that connection with the ground, you are not able to contract the right parts of your body to deliver the outcome you're looking for. And I think, particularly you look at your lower limbs but certainly with your glutes, if you're not able to kind of connect with the ground and in a meaningful way and use your foot muscles and your big toe, then you're going to really struggle to find to contract the glute muscle. And it's the same for other parts of your legs too. And I think often we forget that, and often, as I mentioned before, you see people deadlifting and completely barefoot largely because they feel more stable, but it also allows you to perform that movement far more efficiently. Yeah, I'd love to see more people generally wearing, just taking their shoes off, as I said, rather than not even around wearing barefoot footwear, just to show that immediate gain that you'll see from it. And then obviously over time, you'll see a massive improvement.
Well, we're a huge fan, and this is not intended to be a commercial for your product, but I'd like to talk more about your product because I don't enough about it. But I'm such a fan of the product that 100% of our staff, they all have your products. And a lot of our students do as well now. And we're seeing just great results. I'm curious about the actual construction itself. So by that, I mean, we talked about the benefits of being barefoot or wearing barefoot shoes. You guys obviously have that. And you can feel it when you wear them. Like if you step on a little rock and you're not used to wearing barefoot shoes, it's like, ouch, you can feel everything. But let's talk about, they're very minimalist looking. I think they're beautifully designed. But can you kind of talk about the design complexity and how you, what are some of the hurdles you've had to overcome from a design standpoint over the years to enable the right outcome, but at the same time protect people in a modern world where there may be glass on the sidewalk or whatever?
Sure, absolutely. So, most shoes that people wear these days, are particularly kind of more kind of athletic trainers or sneakers, they often made a very similar last. The last is the shape of the shoe ultimately that you're making. And so as a result, yes, the designs can be different, and don't get me wrong, there's lots of different innovations. Typically, they're working from a similar place, and the factories and the supply chains and the designers that bounce between the companies are typically working in similar concept. And so that, the knowledge and the industry is based around that largely. And as we get bigger, it becomes a bit easier, but particularly in the start, and in our early years, we were making something very, very different to the rest of the world. There was 2 other brands, barefoot brands, really, when Vivo started in 2012, and we had a product previous to those as part of another company. So, we were one of very few businesses trying to do this, and all of them had their own sort of way of doing it. So, starting point, we had to come up with the designs, work with manufacturers to rethink how to manufacture the shoes, and build a supply chain around that as well. So that in itself is no mean feat. And our founders, Galahad and Asher, would have spent, I'm sure, lots of time just figuring that out, honestly. But the products were always based around sort of three core principles. So we had I meant kind of talked to these as we talked about the benefits of the footwear around feet, and that's why we made these design principles exist, is to allow the foot to move naturally, really. But we have a wide toe box, so that allows to fit your natural foot shape. Your natural foot shape is wide. I'm spreading my hands here, but you should be nice and wide, like you are spreading your hands, not pushed together like a lot of people have due to the shoes they wear. We kind of all the shoes, despite their uses, whether it's a trail running shoe, a hiking shoe, a lifestyle shoe, a kid shoe, doesn't really matter. They all have a very flexible design. The soles are super flexible, and that allows your feet to move. If you're stood barefoot, your feet can take so many iterations, movement. They can move in so many different ways, and we want to be able to allow that movement to happen unimpeded. And then we also have very, very thin soles. So the thinness of the sole is there to allow that sensory feedback. Ultimately, yes, you might feel the stone that you walk on, but you also tread a lot more carefully in them. You also will feel that stone instantly and retract your foot, as opposed to standing on a sort of nail and it all being too late and it's gone through your shoe, and that these things happen. But the idea is that you're feeling everything, you react quicker, and you react to the environment around you, and therefore move more efficiently. So all the shoe designs are based around that. Now as a barefoot brand, we wanted people to live barefoot. Vivo Barefoot means live barefoot. So we also needed to actually live to that. So we created products, which, again, to your point, like, how do we do this? It was super complex. We made products across every category you can really think of. We make dress shoes. We make hiking boots. Yeah, leather shoes. I was at a wedding on Saturday. I was in a pair of black leather shoes with my tux. So, we're making outdoor products. We make products we've got a range called the ESC range, where we've designed the most, and each of them taking about 5 years to design, but we've designed a product for each of the biomes of the world. So for the jungle, a shoe that allows water to drain quickly in and out, aligns with the sort of color of the environment there. A desert boot, which we just launched, that has made out of camel leather, so it's keeps you super cool, but also can keep you warm at nights. You don't sweat a lot in it. It also has a little like pad on the top of it, so in case you get a snake bite. So all these little details.
A pad for a snake bite? You mean like a rattlesnake?
Yeah, exactly. So my point is, we created products for very specific environments and outdoor, but we also have trail running and hiking. We do kid shoes, which is one of the most important things we do for the sort of sake of human health in the long term, and performance training products as well. So we cover every aspect, but each of those have those design principles. But the challenges have been, how can we find materials that are flexible but also durable? How can we find materials that are environmentally friendly, or how can we build a program that finds the most environmentally friendly materials? Like, how do we find natural materials that are taken, whether it's from, we've been looking at mushroom leather, or, I mentioned kind of some animal leather, but they're super durable and we're using them from sustainably sourced farms. How do we reduce the amount of plastic in the product? So we're constantly looking at, the design is there, but then how do we create the best, most durable product for the environment it's designed for? Then how do we find the materials there that will allow for durability, but also be the least damaging to the environment? That process, we've got a big team that do that. We have a scoring system. We use all these different methods to do it, but for us, all those things are equally important. But the key is we never compromise on that wide, thin, and flexible design sort of principle, because that is ultimately what provides the health benefit to anyone that wears the shoe.
Yeah, makes total sense. And definitely a challenge. I love how you have such a clear North Star. It's very clear what your box is, and you're trying to stay within it. And it's a beautiful thing, because you're thinking about the health or the pursuit of natural movement for humans. I think it's kind of a battle. We fight that battle in general at Stark, getting people to use their bodies the way they were designed to be used. And that includes food and sleep, and where they're sleep, the environment in which they're sleeping, and so on and so forth, to try to, put a halt in the negative impact of our natural lifestyles, or unnatural lifestyles rather. And you guys are doing a great job with that for feet. So I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. I think your products are just absolutely amazing. I always have what do you call a trunk in the UK in a car? a bonnet or something.
Yeah, no, it's like the boot of the car.
The boot, the boot. I
I
always
think
have a
trunk
pair in
is
the
a better
boot.
word, honestly. We'll keep trunk. I'm gonna have to get used
Okay,
to
we'll
that
keep
when I'm
trunk.
yeah,
Yeah,
these are terminologies I need to get used to.
yeah.
With my
So I
notes.
always have a pair in the trunk, just in case I need to go for a walk. I always have a pair in my backpack for training or to swap the shoes I have right now if I'm going to go for a walk. It's such an integral part of my health journey today and has enabled me to what I would describe as reversing my orthopedic age and reversing my strength profile as a 57-year-old and improving my body composition and improving my recovery. So it's really had almost a global impact on my health, just my feet, which is the most beautiful thing about it. This is for busy people to really contemplate, is that there's no more time, right? There's no more time necessary to develop all the parts of my health I just described. You just change your shoes. It's so simple, and time for at least the audience that we serve and the students within our system, time is so much more important to them than money. And so it's I think it's one of the most efficient changes to your health that you can make the most easily.
I would agree. I'd agree and I appreciate people like yourself and the business that you guys do, because it's a lot of the reasons people are putting on or not putting on, taking off their shoes, let's say, and trying barefoot is down to sort of practitioners and kind of health clubs and alike that are sort of putting their faith into offering advice around it. Yeah, as you said, it's the easiest thing you can do. You can walk out of the gym and walk out of the health club or wherever you're going and continue that sort of good intention every day with every step, which I think is amazing. So yeah, thank you for your support too.
Yeah, it was great hanging out with you, Nicholas. Is there somewhere we can direct traffic for you guys? What's your website?
Yeah, absolutely. So please check out vivobarefoot.com. That's VIVO and then barefoot.com, and our Instagram as well is the same handle. So great place to start. We've got educational courses. We lots of information how to get started, lots of shoes. But yeah, the best thing you can do is just after listening to this, just take your shoes off and wherever, if you're able to, and wherever you are, just walk around for the next 15, 20 minutes, wiggle your toes, move your feet, connect to what your feet are doing. And honestly, I think it'll improve your day.
That's great advice. So if you like today's topic, don't forget to like and subscribe, and please leave us a comment wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you'd like to learn more about Stark, you can visit us at stark.health. That's stark.health.